Hello, comadre.
Hey, comadre.
Do you have a minute for comadre time? Hola Comadres, this is your host Marcy, and on this episode, you're in for a real treat. I was joined by Imani Jones in the comfort of my living room one afternoon to record this intimate conversation where we discuss her experiences as an autism mom. And without further ado, here it is.
Hi, my name is Imani, aka the hippie mom, and I'm excited to be here.
Who are you?
Who am I?
What are all the hats you wear?
Well, I am first things first. I am a writer. I am an artist. I am a mother to a son who is nonverbal and on the spectrum of autism. And I have this company called The Hippie Mom. I started it when Jude just got diagnosed, and I just didn't know, I didn't know anything about anything. I didn't know what was autism. I didn't know anything.
Mm-hmm.
And I started sharing captions on Instagram, just like really raw things of what we were going through, what I was feeling, and how I felt about the diagnosis. And little by little, the following started to grow. And there were so many moms who would write to me and say, like, I really relate to what you're saying, or like, wow, you speak exactly what I'm feeling, and I couldn't find the words. So I started the blog based off of the responses, and now it's growing into this like online shop for herbs. And my premise is just like, be your own healer, because I feel like we have a lot of the power within ourselves, and that we're so programmed to think that we have to rely on modern day medicine or pharmaceutical companies, when in reality we have all these herbs, we have just so much at our fingertips, just the way we eat, the way we change our diet, how we can heal ourselves in that way. So that's kind of the premise of my blog, is to teach other moms, or just lead by example of how we live our lives. And ultimately, I feel like I can reverse not the autism diagnosis, because I know it's always going to be there, but just reverse the symptoms of that make his life, his day-to-day super hard.
Yeah. So the way that I like to give my audience like how we connected. So initially, we got connected via Rick.
Oh yeah.
Rick Herrera. But before that, I had already been following Imani, because I think it was during the pandemic last year sometime. There was like a viral story that I saw was being shared about her on the airplane with her son, and we're gonna get more into that later. But yeah, like I really admired her, and then I started seeing like the type of person that she is, and it really aligned with who I am and the things that I believe in as well. Like as with respect to the like being more holistic and like going back to our roots and embracing that knowledge, that ancestral knowledge that we already have. So so today we're gonna talk about disabilities and discrimination.
Yes.
So the reason why the topic came up is because of Imani's story, right? And we often forget that even though there has been a lot of progress, we are still a long ways away from where it should be. So, through this podcast and everything that I've been doing and the work that I've been putting in, and other people as well, we kind of want to raise awareness and also kind of change the what is it? Like the way that things are,
Yeah.
We want to uproot the system and kind of change things for the better for our kids, because right now they're babies and we can defend them, but they're not going to be able to be doing that later on as adults.
Yeah, that part is really the scariest part to think about, and I try not to go there, but it's really hard to imagine Jude as a 14-year-old boy or a 40-year-old man. Like I don't know what the world is gonna look like, let alone how he's gonna be perceived in this world. And as someone who is on the spectrum but then is nonverbal, I feel like there's just so much that comes along with that. And I think it's just automatically people assume that he's like quote unquote dumb, which I hate.
I really freaking hate that. Like, it really just like grinds my gears. I'm like, first of all, just because he doesn't have expressive language at the moment does not mean that he doesn't have receptive language, that he doesn't understand what's going on.
Yeah, and he really does. I can't speak for the entire spectrum.
Mm-hmm.
I just can see from what I've seen and what I've witnessed, and there's just really, it really pisses me off, especially in education,
Yeah.
where you have teachers who are supposed to be,
They're
molding,
advocates.
molding your child into what they, their highest person, right?
Mm-hmm.
And you got teachers who, with limiting beliefs, who put all of these restrictions on your kid,
Yep.
and then project that onto your kid, and it just sucks, IEPs and all of that. I mean, I get it's for their services, but I try not to judge based off of what he can't do, and really just go on based of like what he can do.
Yeah.
And we've seen a huge progress of he likes art, so let's try to like incorporate that into the day-to-day. He loves music. Okay, let's put music and art together. Like, real chill vibes. And I swear, I feel like it went from scribble on the paper to full faces on a page. Yeah.
I'm so
excited.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So we were talking before we went on air, but you were telling me when you first noticed that your child was different.
Yeah.
So can you just kind of like tell our audience a little bit, like when you started noticing the change, and you can be as raw or as honest as as you can be.
Okay, yeah, as long as you're okay with it.
Yeah,
okay.
Good.
So I noticed a switch around 18 months. And when you said that you noticed at 18 months, I automatically was like, after that shot, right?
Mm-hmm.
So after the MMR shot, Jude just changed. It was a switch that went off. He was talking, he had words, he had language. It wasn't like fluent, but he knew, like, he was saying colors, he knew his ABCs.
Mm-hmm.
You go and say, Jude, go get your shoes, and he get his shoes. Like, just receptive language was there.
Mm-hmm.
He gets the shot. First things first, we go to the doctors for an annual visit, and at the time I wasn't full on quote unquote hippie, but I knew that I didn't want to inject my kid with like 20 something vaccines, right? Because there's like a whole list of vaccines, especially in that first few months, right?
Yeah.
So I was gonna do it on my schedule, and at the time I had missed like 5 vaccines.
Okay.
So they go and they see him, and they automatically see his chart, and they're so pissed off. They're pissed. They leave the room. The doctor comes in, and it's just like, we could call CPS on you for negligence. And I was just 23, didn't know anything. You hit me with CPS. I'm like, all right, whatever, like, let's do this, right? So let's catch up on the vaccines. She was like, well, let's do let's do 2 of the shots today. So, but here's the thing, I didn't know that the MMR had 3 shots in 1 shot. So the MMR is 3 shots in 1.
Wow.
And then the chicken pox is, I believe, 2. Oh, no. It's just 1. But still, that's 4 shots in 1 day. So, at first, Jude, showed signs of just tiredness and, lethargic. And I just was like, okay, well, it's expected he has shots today, right? So they tell you, give him Tylenol and, he'll be fine. He isn't fine by the time we get home. He's crying, really irritable, really tired. I'm talking about couldn't even keep his eyes open. I was like not thinking too much about it, so I just let him fall asleep early, and that was that. In the morning, early in the morning, like 3 a.m., he wakes up and he's screaming, like a scream I've never heard before.
Like pain,
like the difference, right, with the cries. He was screaming like that painful cry, and I knew something was wrong. And the screech of his scream traumatizes me every day. And so I the first thing I did was check his temperature. His temperature was like 104.
Oh my God.
I'm like, this isn't normal. Like, this isn't normal. So, of course, I go and get the Tylenol. I give it to him. And, the crying just continues, but then it subsides once the Tylenol kicks in, he falls asleep. In the morning, same thing. Very irritable, just not himself. I was like, nah, there's something going on here. So I called the doctors and I said, something's not right. Like, he's not himself. He doesn't want to eat. He's not looking at me in the eye. This was the next day. Do you understand what I mean? So the doctor was like, well, give it some time. You could come. It was a weekend. He was like, come on Monday. So I remember the shots being on a leg for some reason, because they couldn't do it on his arm because he was just like flinching. They didn't want them to do it. So they did it on his leg, and he couldn't put pressure on his leg. So he was limping.
Oh my God.
So he's limping. He's not looking me in the eye. He's not eating. I'm like, what the fuck? Like, what's going on here? So we get to the doctor's office, and the nurse wasn't the same. It wasn't the same doctor, but it was whatever doctor was there
in the clinic.
In the clinic, right?
Okay, got it.
So she was like, well, let's see how he's walking. So she's sitting there, and Judah's over here, and he's walking to her, and he's limping, and her face set it off.
She knew.
And she knew to a point where I was like, yo, this has happened before. So ever since that day and ever since that time, I looked into suing. I've looked into malpractice.
Because that's so I'm sorry to interrupt you, but
okay.
That's called a vaccine injury.
It is.
Yeah.
It is. And here's the thing with that, though. You have to report the injury within 72 hours to get a lawsuit.
Wow.
Yeah, and I had no idea. So by the time I even thought that this could be anything like a case, it was already a week.
Yeah.
It was too late. And they were like, well, it's kind of hard to prove, is what they say. Plus, when you sign those papers for those vaccines, in the fine print, it says you can't sue. You can't sue these companies. So you really are signing off whatever happens. And if something like an adverse reaction, like our cases, they have no responsibility. There's nothing. And there's a handful of cases where they've gotten, people have won. But I mean, it's just really eerie. It's scary. It sucks that it's we are made an example. But I also have to think of how many other kids, especially Latinx and Black kids, who fall victim to this.
Yes.
And why is the status of autism so high in our boys?
It started when Aiden first got, because Aiden's older than Jude. When Aiden first got diagnosed, it was like 1 in 80 something kids. It's up to 1 in 44. 1 in 44 children are diagnosed with autism. Okay? And what pisses me off, and I'm not, like, I'm gonna excuse myself with my audience, like, I'm not an anti-vaxxer. I'm not saying, like, oh no, all vaccines are bad. I'm not saying that. What I'm saying is that there's people, not everybody's the same. Everybody's organism is different. There's people that are highly sensitive to certain things, just like there's people that are allergic to milk, that there's people that are allergic to stone fruit, that are allergic to different things. Our kids might have been allergic to something contained in the vaccine, right? And that could have provoked, like, this adverse reaction which resulted in autism.
Yeah.
It can't be that all these children all of a sudden are now, getting diagnosed. Okay, yeah, fine. There's a more precise way to diagnose them, right? But what is it about these boys, especially boys, and then the girls?
Yes.
Have you seen girls with autism?
It's even
more
worse.
severe.
It's more severe. Yeah, the symptoms are way more pronounced, and it's just, there is, like, I think as a community we need to all come together and say and question what's actually going on. I'm not against vaccines either. I think that polio and for instance, or like so many other diseases have been prevented from vaccines, and we wouldn't be the society we are without that. But we also need to acknowledge that there is a 1%, right? 1% is supposedly reported with adverse reactions. So if you take of everybody in the world and you put 1%, that's a large community that's being affected negatively by these vaccines.
And then even that, like even what you were saying, going back to what you said of that you wanted to schedule the vaccines, right?
Yeah.
And space them out. Maybe it could have been avoided had the kids like staggered it out. Like maybe we could have staggered it out and they wouldn't have had that reaction. The thing is that there's so many chemicals and so many things in these vaccines, and you're giving it to them together, and then they're highly sensitive children.
Yeah.
That was the result. And then the thing is, like, you know, kids like Jude, like it breaks my heart because like the fact that he was speaking before and now he's nonverbal.
Yeah.
You know, with respect to expressive language, that is hard.
Yeah, I mean, it's heartbreaking to be his mother and see it and watch it. And there is, if I'm being honest, a large part of myself that still grieves what could have been if this didn't happen to my son. It's not that I don't accept him, because I fully accept him if he were anything. You know, he comes out and says he's gay, I'm gonna fully, I'm going to accept him open arms. It's not even about that. It's more of like, this could have been prevented. And my thing is, you know, I had to really sit down for a really long time and be honest with myself and those feelings, because one thing I hate is saying my story and then having someone say, well, you're supposed to accept your son for what they have.
Dude,
and
like,
it's just,
we're human beings, guys. Like I said, like I had a whole episode about the fact that I went through like the grieving process about the future that I thought my son was gonna have. And whoever judges me for being upset or being sad about it, first of all, there's a lot of this toxic positivity bullshit. Like,
don't get me started.
I'm sorry. We're allowed to have our feelings, and it's normal. Like, it's normal.
Yeah.
Like, I'm not gonna reduce it to something as simple as food.
Yeah.
If you're expecting to have a hamburger and then all of a sudden you come home and there's soup on the table, you're gonna be disappointed. Not disappointed. You're not gonna be as happy about it. You know what I'm saying? Still, you're gonna eat because you're hungry.
Yeah.
But it's basically the same concept. Yes, they have a different future, but we're allowed to feel our feelings and be okay with that. You know, like people should be okay with it. Like, and I hate oh my God, when people are like, well, it could have been worse.
Oh,
okay.
Oh, what's much worse than seeing your child have hit the milestones to now being 18 months at 5 years old? You know, like, let's be real about this. And I hate it. I'll be the first to say, whenever someone says or tries to correct me, I'm sorry. I'm sorry. Are you going through this?
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Well, then you tell me how to act. If you were doing this,
listen, there's parents that go through so much stuff, and we're great moms.
Right.
But we're allowed to have our feelings and you know, go through what we're going through.
Right.
You know, the thing is, we're not gonna wallow in those feelings and be like, oh my God, woe is me, whatever, and just stay stuck there. But our feelings are valid, and you know, like, unless you're going through the situation, and even then, you know, if you meet one person with autism, you know one autistic person.
Yeah,
that's it. That does not mean that every person with autism, every person on the spectrum is gonna be or react the same way to different things.
Right, that part. That one, you met one person with autism, you met one person, that's so real. And I think that, you know, people don't really know, like, what to say in that situation when you tell them, oh, my son is, you know, autistic, because they automatically want to just, like, will sweep in and, like, be understanding, which, you know, that just shows humanity, right? But I think that if anybody could take anything from this conversation is that I don't think that's what we're asking for. I think that what we're asking for is to be heard and to have our feelings acknowledged. and say, you know what, this is hard. That's a hard situation, but I'm here for you to hold space if you ever want to talk.
Yeah.
You know, like, I think that should be the approach for any friends or families with the kids with autism.
Oh my God. The first thing people ask me, they're like, oh, so your son, he's 14. And when are you going to have another one? And like, I legit have a fear. I have a fear. And it's not that I wouldn't love another child that comes out if they happen to be on the spectrum, I guess, as well. But it's like, it's a gamble, and I'm not a betting person.
At all.
You know what I'm saying? So, like, you know, respect, it's like all about respect, and then like understanding and hearing exactly what you said, like hearing what we have to say and like absorbing the message and like kind of taking that into account. You know what I'm saying? Because it's really easy to point a finger and be like, oh my God, she's so ungrateful. Her child is this, her child is that. But you know, there's so many other complexities. Like the whole show, I talk about all these things that I went through with Aiden. I'm actually gonna do an episode about like all the stuff that goes all the things, puberty, all these things. Like, you know, it's very different. Like, you know, the future, I don't know if Aiden's gonna be able to be independent. You know, when he turns 21, I don't know if he's gonna be able to live by himself.
Yeah.
So it's there's so many complexities in it, and the fact that some people love to judge and like, you know, have their sit on their soapbox and be like, well, you're a bad mom because you're saying this and that. I'm sorry. No, shut the fuck.
Yeah, no, that part, that last part. And if you don't, can I say it? Shut the fuck up, for real. Like, for real.
I'm so serious.
Like, for real, man. And I think these honest conversations that you're having is really important for other moms who feel alone, because we're not seeing these conversations. And you got a lot of toxic positivity, especially when it comes to neurotypical diagnoses. So I think that to have a mom who's just had their son or their child diagnosed and then hear a conversation so candid is going to give such comfort.
Yeah.
I know I remember listening to something, I don't even know when or what podcast it was, but a mom was saying something similar, like just how raw it was to have a child on the spectrum. And I was like, damn, I could feel that way? That's allowed?
Yeah.
Oh, great. Like, I'm not alone here.
Dude, and then you're so young. How old are you, Imani?
28.
28, man. It's a lot.
Oh, girl, my back hurt.
I had Aiden when I was pregnant when I was 24. I had my 25th birthday, and I gave birth to him when I was 25.
Wow.
So I'm 38 now, but it's a lot, man. So once he got diagnosed, did he get early intervention?
Yeah. So as soon as so how it happened was my mom is a special education teacher.
Wow.
Yeah. So as soon as we noticed the switch, she was actually the one to say, I think you need to get him evaluated. And there was a period of time where I was just like in denial, and I didn't want to, and I was like, he's fine, and I was angry, and I was pissed off, and I just was not trying to hear it. But then I realized like I'm only hurting him. So we finally got the early intervention, and it was so hard being in an office with people who don't know you, don't know your kid, who just go off of a checklist of what he can and cannot do. And hearing a lot of can'ts is just really, it's disheartening. It's hard.
I feel like if we can affect some kind of change, I would love for that, instead of being like a deficits-based approach on evaluations, like saying what the kid can do. Because like at the end of the day, first of all, the kids can, like, yes, they don't have the language yet, but they can perceive, you know, people's attitudes and stuff. And then, you know, for the mom too, like even when I do IEP meetings, I'm a special education teacher too. So
yeah, wow.
Yeah, so when I do IEP meetings, I make sure that I tell the parent like exactly what the kid is like capable of doing, and like the progress, you know. Nobody wants to be in a meeting like, oh, your kid doesn't do this, doesn't do that, XYZ, you know. So I understand how you were feeling though. But and then so what services did they give him when he first when they finally gave him the diagnosis? Was it PDD that they gave him at the beginning, or did they give the diagnosis of autism like straight up?
They just said it all straight up.
Okay.
They were like, "Oh yeah, he's definitely on the spectrum." Which was another thing was really hard to hear because you had all these evaluations. That period where they're just in and out of your house and doing all these evals. And they'd stay for 30 minutes, and they're judging him based off of that first encounter. So it was really hard for me to accept that diagnosis at first because it was like you don't even know him and he needs to warm up to you.
I knew there wasn't something wasn't right, but then when I finally heard it just I felt so defeated. I just started crying.
Oh yeah.
And it wasn't even a little bit like a sniffle here. It was the tears that when your brain it's done.
The snot from your brain.
Yeah.
Everything. Girl, I had one of those actually a few days ago because I was going through for Women's Day.
Mm-hmm.
I was going through videos of just feeling empowered when it was the most empowering moment I felt as a woman.
Mm-hmm.
And it always goes back down to breastfeeding and having Jude.
Mm-hmm.
And there were videos of him talking. And there was also a video of him at 6 months saying, "I love you."
Mm-hmm.
And that's another thing. He was so advanced, man. He had his head up at 2 days old, turning over in a week. He's a weeker, turning over, doing tummy. It was just wild.
Mm-hmm.
I'm all that quinoa and shit that I ate while I was pregnant really worked. And so, so I had one of those moments in my kitchen, and it's always either in my kitchen or in my bathroom, where I just broke down and I was like, I haven't cried like this in a minute. But you know what's so great about that is realizing that I think we just get so wrapped up in the day-to-day that we don't have time to process our emotions. But this is not just a cry, get it out one time and that's it. It's crying, grieving for the rest of your life, to be honest. And
there's different levels to it.
Definitely.
But what did they give him? Did they give him speech and OT?
Oh yeah. PT? So they he didn't have any language at that point anymore because he completely regressed. So they gave him speech, they gave him OT, PT, and that's all the services, right? Mm-hmm. OT, PT, and speech. He received it all, and ABA. And then ABA was just another thing because that boy wasn't gonna get bribed to do nothing at that point. He didn't care. You got goldfish. I ain't doing it. I'm not putting it in. And you keep your triangle shaped. I'm not putting it in. So that was difficult. And
ABA is so controversial.
It is.
And for the people that are listening that are new to the podcast, ABA is applied behavior analysis, which is a therapy that teaches a replacement behavior for behaviors that the child has. So basically, initially the therapist is pairing with your child. They're figuring out what they like, what they enjoy, and then with that, they're essentially convincing them to do what they want them to do because they're going to get this prize. I mean, at first glance, you think, and this is going to sound crazy, it seems it's you're training an animal, but for
definitely. That's how I got it too.
Yeah.
I was is my kid a dog?
Yeah, so, it works, it works for some children, it doesn't work for every child. I'm not going to tell you that ABA works for everybody, but I feel a lot of the things that Aiden was doing, he was able to get better through ABA. But then the thing is, once they reach school age, they take it away. So it's
that's what we're going through right now. Mm-hmm. A whole fight in the lawsuit with the district, and we won, thank God.
Good.
Amen. But now we're also going through this fact of
now you have to find a school.
It's finding a school, and it's March. And then
you have time though.
Yonkers district though, basura. I cannot stand it. Don't get me started. I don't understand.
But are you okay with him being into the city in case that you find a school in the
I
city?
found a school in actually Rockland County, and
Okay.
it's really, really nice.
I think my friend
Do you know what I'm
Sadie
talking
goes
about?
there. I'm gonna get you the information. One of my guests from the show, Yadi, her son goes like a
In
little bit
Rockland?
upstate, like in Rockland County. I
It
believe.
might be the same one that I'm thinking because it's beautiful. I love
Mhm.
it. I love their approach. It's very nature based.
Mhm.
You know, so maybe it is that school.
I mean, I'm gonna get you the information,
Okay,
but
yeah, yeah.
like it might be because like I know that she was busing him up there at one point,
Girl,
and
I'll move out there if they accept him. I'll move. Like
yeah, like
it's
that's
just
one thing. Like
yeah.
we're like so down for our kids. We're like, yo, we gotta move. Let's go.
Let's go. Pack it up.
Pack it up. It's time
That's
to go.
it. It's over. And so yeah. It's a process, right? Like it's a process. This whole thing with the district, and I didn't even know that's another thing that I'm like, I gotta be a parent, I gotta be an advocate, I gotta be
It's a lot of hats
nurse.
you gotta wear.
So many, and some days I'm barely me.
I tell people like I be getting my whole Karen on. Like I am that mom.
Oh, me too, and I don't apologize no more.
I don't care.
I'll
You
say
feel your feelings. That's okay. Listen, I will write an email and I will follow up and I will speak to the superintendent. I will have if I have to talk to everybody in that district and like escalate it to the Department of Education for the state, I will.
definitely, and I'm not gonna apologize.
Like they had him in a 6 to 1 and I'm looking at the kids that are with him and there's nothing I don't have anything against that, but there's kids with behaviors.
Mhm.
You know what I'm saying? Just because they are all on the spectrum doesn't mean that behavior wise, like
Mhm.
you know, you can't have a kid that has certain behaviors with other kids, especially because Aiden likes to copy things. You know what I'm saying? Like if he sees somebody doing it, he's like, this person's getting attention.
Yep.
Let me do it too.
Yep.
So, you know, he was developing behaviors and like I didn't feel like he was progressing as much. So I had to fight the school and they ended up putting him in a 12 to 1 now for junior high school.
Amazing. How's
But
he doing?
he's
with
doing
the 12 to 1? That's
amazing.
great.
He's doing so well. Because the thing is, like, Aiden is a social kid, but if you put him with other people that are not talking and are not motivating him to speak, he's gonna. It's just like you. Like, if you don't have to use your words, you're not gonna.
Well,
if you can get something that you want with just like gestures, you will.
Oh, and I think that's what Jude right now, and that's why the speech is just not progressing because he is not surrounded by teachers who believe he can or will talk again, which makes a huge difference. That's like so you're already putting that limitation on my kid, and if he isn't prompted to ask and you just give it to him,
no,
how is he going to? Yeah, that pisses me off.
Nah,
too.
man. Let me tell you, Aiden had this speech therapist. He's actually he's the head of the Department of Speech Pathology at Columbia University.
Ooh.
Now.
Ooh.
But when he was working with Aiden
Yeah.
in early intervention, I remember he used to be like, he was from India. He'd be like, Marcia, you need to be firm with him and do not give him anything unless he puts a sentence together. So we started prompt because he had the words, but he was being lazy. So he would be like leche, and then when we taught him please and I want, and then we taught him we were like I want leche please, and then unless he said that he wouldn't get it.
Yeah.
I want iPad please. I want whatever please, and it like you know it gets a little annoying because you're saying please all the time. But at the end of the day, like now Aiden, I can't tell him I can't get him to shut up.
That's incredible. I love that, and I can't wait because I know it's coming.
He's gonna get there.
I
He's
know.
gonna get there.
I know.
The thing is, he needs speech pathologists like the one that I'm talking about that are gonna like make him say things. Because even me as a special education teacher, I don't have a background in speech, and I make my students, especially when I was teaching 6 to 1 to 1, I used to make them work for whatever it was that they wanted. You have to use that sentence. Like I get you have gestures, but if you have one or two words, you're gonna use those words to get what you want.
And that's it. See, that makes a difference. It makes a huge difference on the progress of your child.
I had a kid that he was like barely verbal, and by the time that I left the school, he was singing.
Wow.
Singing in class.
That's amazing.
And he would get angry. He'd be like, I'm angry. I'm like, okay, it's okay if you're angry.
Yeah.
Tell me about it.
Yeah.
And like I actually emailed the dad the other day and he was like, oh my God, he's doing so awesome.
Oh, look at that. I love. See, that's the beauty.
The difference.
That's also the beauty in this diagnosis too. You gotta find like the the silver lining and everything. But the beauty of it is when they do hit those milestones, and then when they do make that progress, it's like he wasn't doing that before. Like that's incredible.
Like one of the moms that I with the episode that aired this week, she was talking about her son ate a blueberry and she was just like floored.
Oh man, yeah, I can't even imagine. That's great.
She was floored. I mean, people are like probably like, what's the big deal to fucking blueberry? But if your kid has a food aversion, and then they try something new that they had never eaten before, or request something, like I made a party, Aiden ate waffles the other day for the first time, and I was like, let's have a dance, and he's like, okay, mommy.
I would just get all the waffles in the world.
If you go, I have eggs in the freezer. Like whenever you want waffles, bro. And he's like, "Can I have scrambled eggs and waffles?" And he knows it's like a Saturday, Sunday food for breakfast. So now he'll request it. But yeah, like it's crazy. So Imani, let's switch gears a little bit. I wanted to ask you, what was it that happened on United Airlines? Like,
oh yeah.
Wait, can we talk about it?
Of course.
Okay.
Yeah. We were on our way back from Vegas visiting a friend, my best friend, and her family. And it was a late flight. It was about 10 p.m. I knew to pick that time because Jude was just going to be asleep, right? So get to the airport, everything is breezy, we get in, everything's good. Jude is in the stroller and he does not have a mask on. At that time, COVID was like headlines, you know.
Was it this year or the like 2020?
2021 actually.
Okay.
It was last year.
It was like when they opened everything back up that we could travel again.
Yeah, but it was still very like, you gotta wear your mask. Yeah. So you know, and here's the thing, like Jude has a lot of sensory processing disorder. So it's really difficult. It's like right now he's wearing socks and that was huge. He would not want them around his feet or any. It affects him, right? So let alone a mask. Okay, so he's not wearing no mask. I'm not gonna have him wear a mask. He don't want to wear it. He holds his breath whenever anything is over his mouth. So it's just like this is then a suffocation, risk for suffocation, right? So we get to give our ticket, and they're like, he needs a mask, and I was like. I explained to them, like, well, you know, my son is on the spectrum of autism, and he just has a really bad reaction when wearing a mask. He's at risk for suffocation. They were like, well, how old is he? And at the time, he was 4. And, you know, the mask mandate was for 2 and up. So they were like, well, he's past 2, so he needs to wear it and get over it. I was like, hold up. So I'm initially, you meet me airy, very happy, you know, chill, whatever. The minute they told me to get over it, Mama Bear came out. I was like, excuse me. I brought out, you know, the law for Nevada and what the law says about the mask. And it says if anybody's at risk for suffocation, they should not be mandated to wear a mask. I pulled it up and I said, according to this line, this is what this says, so you have to oblige by it. And they just were like, yeah, no, we can't get on. At that point, it really escalated. This man by the name of Robert Holland, who United has never done anything about it. They didn't reach out, or they reached out, but it was a very generic response. But anyway, the guy, Robert Holland, was the manager at the time, and he was just so rigid. He wasn't trying to understand. He had very lack of empathy. I also think that race has a huge deal about it because, again, we were in Nevada, Vegas, and I just think he thought that I was trying to be problematic on purpose, when in reality, I was trying to explain to him what autism is. And then he also asked for a diagnosis that says his autism. And I was like, that's against HIPAA. Like, I'm not going to give you that. You know what I mean? And also, I don't have that with me. Why would I carry that? So And without that diagnosis, you can't get on. And you were supposed to do an exemption 7 days before your flight. And I'm like, that wasn't a rule when we got there. So again, we were there in Vegas for only a week. From
And he traveled to Nevada without a mask.
Without a mask, nothing happened. Everything was great. They gave us a little trouble, but I explained to them exactly what I was trying to tell Robert, and they were like, okay, like just it's okay. So at that point, it escalates. He's getting really aggressive. I go then pull out my phone to record the incident, and he pushes my hand. And I'm from the Bronx, okay? All right, I think that's a violation. Yeah. You're not gonna touch me. So, it, at this point, I'm just so astonished at the treatment we're receiving. I'm hurt, and I can't turn off the way that I would if Jude wasn't there. If it was just me, I'd probably get arrested, to be honest. But I'm like, now I can't get arrested because then who's gonna watch my son?
That's always my thought. I was like, I can't go to jail. Who's gonna take Aiden, man?
Right, I can't. So, I just broke down and I started crying, and I was on the floor of the airport. And meanwhile, all of this is happening, and Judah's just sleeping in the stroller,
completely unaware,
and not problematic. And he would not allow us to get our luggage. So now the luggage is on the plane, and now I'm just begging for our luggage because if I gotta stay another night, at least let me have all my tinctures were in there.
Oh my God.
And if for those who are listening who don't know what tinctures are just herbs that sit in alcohol or glycerin for about 6 weeks. And then after the 6 weeks, the herbs, they ferment, and they provide like medicine. It's like a more potent approach to taking the herbs. And so I have all these tincture lines to stabilize his mood for the plane, but also like we're in a different environment. Yeah. So like it's a lot, and it helps. It helped. We had all of that. We had everything in that luggage, and he wouldn't allow us to get the luggage. He would not allow us to get on the plane. Our luggage was on the plane. The plane ends up leaving. Like, what am I gonna do? I'm stuck on the airport. I'm stuck. I call up United. I tell them the situation. I'm bringing up laws. I'm bringing up all the things that they broke. I'm bringing up, like, I'm a lawyer at this point. They realized how in the wrong they are. They ended up giving us a flight in the morning. So at that point, it was like we had to spend the night in the airport.
Oh my God.
Nothing. My son is in an airport with none of his stuff. No tinctures, no stabilizers, nothing, no food. Like, what? It was a disaster. I mean, he was crying. It was the worst night of my life. It really was the worst. I felt so uncomfortable. I could not. I was like high alert. We finally get on the plane back, and everything is great. And he didn't wear a mask. So I immediately was like, this can't be the end all be all. I gotta get this on social media.
Yeah.
And I'm grateful that the story did take off, but we didn't get anything from that. And I don't know what I was expecting. Maybe like news coverage or just awareness of our situation and how like this is exactly what I mean. Our kids are not included in the conversation.
Yep.
And they make these mandates, they make these things, not including kids who have sensory disorders or who are prone to suffocation, or like they don't include our kids ever in those conversations.
Yeah, especially kids that don't have a visible disability.
Oh yeah,
right.
Yeah.
So I did a travel episode, like giving tips and tricks to parents, because like a lot of parents want to travel, but they don't know how their kid is going to react to it, or like how they can prep them to get them like mentally ready to be able to leave their house, which they're used to, and it's everything familiar, to go out and like do these things, right? So a lot of these parents, like not a lot of these parents. So we went to Puerto Rico, and they call like, oh, if you have a disability, get up and board the plane.
Right.
So I get up with Aiden because I don't want him waiting like all that time in the airport. And he's in his right because he has a disability.
Yeah.
So I get to the counter, and the person that's taking the ticket, he's like, we call people with disabilities. I was like, yes, he has autism. And I looked at him, that is in his eye. And he was like, oh, okay.
At least he switched gears.
Right? He said, oh, okay. And then I'm walking, and I kind of had an attitude with him. Then he was like, oh, then he meets me at the gate right before you do that thing to go on the actual airplane.
Yeah.
So he meets me there, and he's like, oh, my son has autism. Aww. And I'm looking at him like, are you serious?
Right.
And he's like, wow, thank you so much. I didn't know that you could do that. I'm like, so they don't even inform the people that work at the airport about it.
That's my point of this whole thing. That's why that really triggered me, man. I wrote to United after that whole thing, and I was contacting, you name it, all the people on the list of, higher up. And I said, if you're not going to accommodate me with compensation, at the very least, you can get training for your staff so that this doesn't happen again. Because it seems to me Robert does this on the regular. You know what I mean? So, their response was really like, we apologize that you had that experience. However, it says it here on our terms and conditions that you were supposed to do it 7 days prior to do a mask exemption 7 days prior to your flight. So they didn't acknowledge anything. It was very, like I said, generic response. I don't even know if they even read our letter. Yeah, and I will never fly with United again, even though the prices are very tempting. I still won't do it because
I won't fly with them. Not only that, but then they charge you for like literally everything. They're like, oh, you have a carry-on?
Yeah.
You have a carry-on? Here, that's $50. Yeah, I'm sorry you went through that though. That's bullshit.
Yeah, it really it traumatized me to a point that I don't even know what to expect when to travel again. I haven't traveled since.
One thing I did learn, because Rick put me onto, was it Rick? No. Love on the Spectrum. So Love on the Spectrum, a lot of these adults with autism, you can wear there's a sunflower lanyard.
Oh.
So supposedly,
I've never noticed.
All the staff at the airport are supposed to recognize that as somebody with a disability.
Wow.
So that I'm gonna try this next time I travel with Aiden, which he hates. Like he likes to be at the beach, but he's like immediately after we're done, he's like, "So when are we going to mommy's house?" But I'm gonna try it and see, cause you never know, man. And then summer vacation and spring break is coming up.
Yeah.
But yeah, I saw the people on the show actually wearing them.
Wow.
And then I guess people wear. I think we can order them online.
Okay.
Once I find it, I'll probably order a couple for Jude and a couple for Aiden.
Oh, you're the sweetest. Thank you so much.
Yeah, but there needs to be some kind of overall training of people that are in power to work with kids on the spectrum, because at the end of the day, even police, man, I don't know if there's a training that police go through. I'm terrified. Yeah. Terrified.
Right. I mean,
I read stories and it's really bad, and I don't ever want any of our kids to go through that. You know what I'm saying? But there needs to be more education, and there needs to be also more humanity. I get it that you have a job to do, but you need to be a human and operate in the sense what it had it been my child in that situation, would I want this happening to them?
Yes. And I think that the lack of empathy and it's apparent in these big corporations, but also in the training. I feel if they just spent just a few more days or however, whatever the training is to be in
more
United, just anything could have helped that situation not be what it was. But I shout out to the stranger who sat with me, and to this day, I think it might have been an angel because uh, I looked up and the I said the angel, but yeah, the human was gone, and I was like, oh. But yeah, this girl's I was crying on my like the floor, like just I can't believe this is the treatment I've gotten. And she just stood with me and she rubbed my back and she's like, I'm so sorry that this has happened to you. This is so unfair. I saw the whole thing play out. And she just reassured me. And I think in that moment, wasn't even, that's all I needed, really. Just that was wrong. Um, and that was nice. And that also showed like the other side of humanity, that there are people who are very empathetic towards, um, just neurotypical children, but just like the unfairness of it all. And had we had these conversations, like for everything, and if our kids were included in these conversations, in training, and all of these things, even in customer service, like things would be so much different.
I agree. But wait, let's switch gears. Let's get off that ugly topic.
Yeah, that was real though. That was
that yo. I don't even know what I would have done if I was in that situation.
I feel whatever I felt back then now. It was very traumatizing.
You felt violated.
So violated. So violated. I was like, I can't even, you know what really, really, before we switched, but really what made me so sad in that moment is, what if I didn't know English?
Dude.
Do you know what I mean? Like, what about those parents who can't speak English, or have broken English, and who are automatically assumed to be quote unquote stupid, but then they also have a child on the spectrum, or like a disability. I can't even imagine what they're feeling in that moment. They feel lack of power for not being able to advocate the way that they want
completely to. Disempowered.
Yeah.
Yeah, but it's just there's so much, like literally, like discrimination is real for people that are neurodivergent, like our children. You know what I'm saying? Like, and it's not that people are like purposely like seeking them out to be mean to them.
Right.
But the thing is, like when they find themselves in the situation with these people that are different than them, it's so easy to be an asshole and not, look for that humanity and like operate from a place of love. Like, that's my whole thing. Like, treat others how you want to be treated. Like, you would never want somebody to manhandle you and like, deny your rights, and be a jerk to you.
Right. I don't understand. I think that the times we're living in is very every man to themselves, and I blame like being home for all those days, months, whatever, a year away from society. I think there has been like we've really done some sort of
socially
regression.
I mean, but in that, I feel like there's like a massive awakening to the systems that are in place right now.
Totally. There is a great awakening. It's like a great reset.
A lot of people are realizing what's wrong with these systems, and they're choosing not. I feel like this is why people are quitting jobs too.
Yes.
People are deciding like this shit ain't for me. Like, why? Because you said so? I'm sorry, that doesn't work for me.
Yeah, and that's the beauty of that too, right? Like, we all are little by little waking up, and we are all little by little, questioning the system, and what would work before does not work necessarily now, and it can't work because going forward we're becoming a very like digital world, right? It's just weird. It's a weird climate to live in, but it's a really nice thing to see the collective waking up.
Yeah, and then there's like, of course, there's gonna be So I call these people the flag holders. So there's people that are the swimmers, right? Like, we're already out there swimming to the new island.
Yes.
There's people that are like wait and sees, right? And then there's the flag holders, ones that are like holding on for dear life to these systems that make quote unquote make sense to them.
Yes.
Because they are scared about what it could be like, right? They're operating from a place of fear. So, it's like, there's gonna be people that are like that guy from United, who's a fucking asshole, and he shouldn't be working with people
at all. Like maybe do the whatever.
Work on a computer by yourself.
I'm saying
in a fucking cubicle. Like, get the fuck out of here. There's people that are working customer service that should never, ever.
If you lack empathy, don't work with people. If you hate people, don't work with people.
Like, there's so many other jobs. So many other jobs.
Literally. Girl. Smokes imaginary cigarette because I'm stressed.
No, we're gonna do 2 deep breaths and then we're gonna change the subject. All right, ready? Feel your belly. Exhale.
I don't know if everyone heard, but I just kind of cracked my back because there was just a lot of tension in that.
One more time. Deep inhale. Exhale.
Yeah,
Shake it off.
that helped. That helped. You're right. It's not mine to carry no more. But fuck that guy.
Yeah, fuck that guy. No, but seriously. So tell me more about Julius. So he's into art now and music.
Yes.
Tell me more about him. Like, what makes him sparkle? What like? Tell me about your little. I know he's so. And guys, he's so handsome. Like, you don't understand. And he's the sweetest, and he's like a little snuggle bug too.
Oh, he really is, which is like everything against what the diagnosis says, right? Like they say kids on the spectrum or people on the spectrum don't know how to show affection.
Aiden was like that at the beginning. I had to like wear him down like Steve Urkel.
I just like put on my body weight and like love me.
You're like, hug me. Now Aiden just randomly comes, especially when he's trying to chop you out, when he's trying to get something from me, he'll come over and he'll be like, I love you, mommy.
Oh,
but he'll do multiple kisses because he knows it breaks my, like, it'll warm my heart. I'll be like, I'm mad at you. And he'll be like, and I'm mad at mommy.
Oh, see, and like I'm putting and whatever you want after.
Take it off. It's fine. Order that DVD. You have 5 of them. It's fine.
Yeah, Jude is a sweetheart. He's the sweetest kid. I am just so happy to be his mom. You know, I learn something new about him every single day, and it's such a crazy thing. He's 5. He's going on 6 in May, and he's just becoming his own person. He's got a lot of personality. He's a lot like me. Which can also butt heads because I'm like, little boy, you know, like,
calm down.
Or just like stubborn, like how I am. Like, okay, that's nice.
What's your sign?
I'm a Gemini. You already know.
Oh my God,
sis, there's a twin inside of me that you don't want to see. He got that side.
Oh my gosh.
He's angry, man.
Yeah, but he gets in his moods, right?
He gets in his moods, he does. And
this one's very much like when like this, I feel like it's a Scorpio thing, like when he doesn't want to talk, it's kind of like whatever.
Yeah.
And then he has days that he's like all on top of you and he's like talking your ear off, and then there's other days that he's just like, he can't be bothered.
Totally. I think it might be, you know, or I really feel that. And my son is a Taurus, so he's a bull.
Oh my God.
Stubborn.
Yeah, so stubborn.
So there's a lot of like, all right, I'm the mom, you know, I wear the pants.
Oh my God.
But yeah, it's a blessing to see who he is as a person and what new interests he likes. Like right now it's spiders and insects.
Oh my God. Maybe he's gonna be an entomologist.
Who knows, man? I mean, but then it was trained for a really long time and but still like, is.
Like, I feel like that bug thing is like dope. Like, so dope.
It's nice. He's like watching on YouTube. He goes on YouTube and watches all these different videos. I'm like, how do you even get there? How did you get to that video? It's so wild to see.
They're just like so like when you tap into that little thing that they love, it's like you open up like this Pandora's box to like their world. Like you really legit like you're like, oh, I didn't know he could do that.
Yeah.
Oh my God.
Yes.
Yeah.
That goes back to like feeding on their strengths instead of just focusing on the weaknesses. Yeah.
But yeah, like you already told us about your business.
Mm-hmm.
What do you do to self-care though?
Yeah.
Because like I'm trying to teach moms like, yes, you could be super mom and do all the hats and stuff, but like
you really want to know the answer.
Also, yeah. What do you do for self-care?
You said candid, right?
Yeah, whatever.
I masturbate and smoke weed.
and that's okay.
Okay.
Dude, I'm not knocking it. No, seriously, like it is what it is, guys. Seriously, like we're great moms and we do all the things.
I still got needs,
we're
man.
not saints, and
Not at all.
and that's normal.
And that's the thing. That's what I want to bring to the conversation. That you still got needs. You're still a very sexual being. You're still a person with needs and wants and desires. Like, you're not just this person's bitch. You know, you got your own thing that you need.
Like, you don't automatically become a saint because you're a mom.
Oh yeah, no.
Like,
if anything, it's gotten a little, like, I tapped in, you know, more.
I feel like that's the thing. Like, I had Gri from Brujas of Brooklyn on, and she
no way.
Yeah, so the episode is called Sensual Motherhood, and then
I gotta check that out.
We totally talk about, like, yes, we're mothers, yes, we're doing all the things, but we still want to feel sexy. We want to be able to check ourselves out and like feel ourselves and just like enjoy our divine feminine. You know, like it can't just be operating from a space of like, oh, I'm just giving, and not pouring into myself, because there's no way that you can be a great mom if you're like running on zero, on fumes.
Agreed. I think that's why they say, you know, when you're on an airplane, you got to put your oxygen mask on
She
first.
said that.
No way.
Yes.
No way.
I'm
For real?
so serious.
Oh, shit. That's dope. That's insane. That's synchronicity. That's dope. Okay, universe, I see you. But yeah, no, and then, you know, I make sure that I have the regimen of making sure that I tap into myself. It's not all the time. I'm not going to sit here and I have my yoga mat all the fucking time. And it's really difficult some days to fit in that, right? Yeah. But if I don't, and I don't listen to that voice, then there's just a spiral of, you know, and
I've been there, man.
I go there and I try not to be there.
Yeah.
And so I, like, before I recognize those signs, when I can't focus on one thing and I'm hyper sensitive or like just all these things, and I like, okay, I need to meditate. I need to breathe. I need to do what's gonna tap in. You know, I believe heavy in God. I need to see something that's inspirational, read something, you know, a verse or just connect, like, hey God, what's up? Or this is what I'm feeling. And being so candid and open and authentic in that relationship with God, however it may look to anybody else, it's not like typical, but it's still there. And that relationship and bonding, you know, with higher spirit, God, that is my saving grace right there, you know? So incorporating like the daily spirituality aspect and realizing that I am a spiritual being in a human body. And if I operate too much in my human form, that's when I feel depleted, you know? But it's also balanced too, because I'd be way too spiritual. It's like, all right, bitch, you a human though. you gotta come down. You gotta... you know, so finding that happy medium is the everyday process, but like, do what works for you.
Yeah. All right, and with that, comadres, we're gonna end the episode. This was such a good conversation.
So good. Thank you so much for having me.
That's it. You're besties. We're my bestie. That's it. You're
not gonna get rid of it. For life, girl. What you doing next weekend? Shit. Have the boys in the room. Need to drink some wine.
All right, comadres, thank you so much for joining us tonight. And as usual, you know where to follow me. Follow me at Comadreando Pod on IG, and follow Imani on IG at The Hippie Mom.
Yeah.
Make sure you check out those tinctures and those herbal teas and
herbal cigarettes
as well. And if you have any questions, feel free to send me a Comadre-Gram. If you have any questions for Imani, send me a Comadre-Gram as well at comadreando@escthenetwork.com. And slide into my DMs. You know, I'm very responsive. Yes. And thank you for spending time with your comadres. Bye.
Bye.
Hello, comadre.
Hey, comadre.
Do you have a minute for comadre time?